Welcome back to TechNet Radio. It's IT time, and in this episode, Blain Barton interviews Alan Meeus, a senior technical product manager with the Windows Phone team. Listen in as they discuss how Windows Phone integrates with a business's IT infrastructure, from planning to deployment, group policy measures, and security. Blain, the mic is yours.
Hello and welcome to IT Time Radio. I'm your host, Blain Barton, a senior IT pro evangelist here at Microsoft. And today I have an IT Time guest, Alan Meeus. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing fine, and I'm really excited to be here.
Excellent. Yeah, Alan's role at Microsoft is a senior technical product manager for infrastructure. Once again, great and welcome to the show, Alan.
Thank you.
So Alan has been in the IT industry since the early 80s, and I can resonate with that. I too started at that time, and Alan was involved with the introduction of the IBM PC. So wow, you go back some years there as a support person for Computerland. He's also been involved in support and maintenance works with multiple companies in the past, mainly in Europe, and he was born in Belgium, including large companies like Siemens, Digital Equipment, and HP. He works with several IT companies, including WordPerfect and Novell, before landing Microsoft 15 years ago. So Alan is an OS guy, so he's been active with Windows, Windows Server, and now Windows Phone for the last 3 years. So once again, welcome, Alan.
Thank you.
So tell us here on IT Time, how'd you get involved with IT?
Well, I'm a part of an engineering family. So my dad was an engineer, worked for what we know Alcatel these days, right? My brothers are engineers, so I became an engineer. It's kind of in the genes. That's how it goes. And then, obviously, in college, I was confronted with mainframes in that time, and got excited about these things. And when the kind of the smaller form factors came and popped up, I got really involved in that. So I got a virus there, I think.
Excellent, excellent. So tell us a little bit about what you're using to develop the Windows Phone 7, or kind of what your main role is there at Microsoft.
So I'm a technical product manager in the Windows Phone team, and I'm really focused at the infrastructure. And I tell my colleagues over here, this is the boring stuff, right? Because they're all involved in the consumer and the user experience side of the Windows Phone business, but I'm in the infrastructure. So I look at all the things that, how does Windows Phone integrate with what businesses have, like Exchange Server, SharePoint Server, Windows Server, obviously. Also the cloud infrastructure, things like what we know, BPOS and Office 365 and Windows Azure. That's kind of my focus area.
Excellent. So where do you think you want to tackle the interview today? What do you want to start with? What's your favorite component or product in working with Phone 7?
Well, in general, I think one of my favorite topics I want to talk to IT people about is that Windows Phone 7 is really something that kind of is our answer to what we call consumerization of IT. A lot of IT departments today are actually confronted with the issue or the problem or the opportunity, depending a little bit on how you want to look at it, that all these employees and vendors and so forth that they have and work within their organization, they bring these consumer technologies and they say, I want to use this for work too. I mean, the smartphone is kind of the exponential or the exponent of that evolution, and IT needs to figure out how do we actually get that to work and what do we do with it? And sometimes these consumers are actually the CIO, right? That brings in this smartphone to say, hey, make this work. Such a cool device. So that's a really big topic that I tackle on a daily basis with customers, partners, and our engineering team, by the way.
Okay, great. So if I were an IT pro and I was thinking about, I've got different devices in my infrastructure, perhaps iPhone, perhaps Android or BlackBerry, some of those devices. I know that there's not really a single console to manage those devices. But let's just specifically take just the device in general. How would one go and manage all of these devices inside of an infrastructure, or be able to provision the phones, make sure that they just work?
Well, there is a common platform across these devices. If you think about it, it's not that obvious, but it is Exchange, right? Because all these devices want email, contacts, and calendar on them, and they all support Exchange ActiveSync, which is a Microsoft standard protocol that Exchange Server talks to mobile devices.
Sure.
It talks that to iPhone and Androids and to Windows Phone, obviously. Now, Exchange ActiveSync is not just a protocol to enable you to synchronize email. It also enables the IT Pro to manage the device. It has a number of policies, from password policies, security policies. It enables an IT Pro to wipe the device when it gets lost. It enables the IT Pro to do a lot of things, and it's a little different from kind of device to device. Windows Phone 7 is a really great Exchange ActiveSync phone, and management is usually done through Exchange ActiveSync, so through the Exchange policies.
Okay, so when we look at Exchange and managing end user mailboxes, as well as, say, managing devices, of course that plays with Active Directory. So when we talk about Active Directory and wiping the device, can you tell us a little bit more about the integration between, say, the device, Exchange Server, and Active Directory?
Well, there's no real big integration between the two, except for the fact that obviously Exchange Server uses Active Directory as its repository for users. In that sense, the Exchange provides functionality which we call auto-discovery. When you enter your, let's say, user@microsoft.com email address and your password, the first time you open up the device, it will go up to the website of that, or the URL of that company, and try to auto-provision Exchange services. Obviously, we'll try then to authenticate the user using Active Directory, that kind of stuff. But for the rest, there's very little integration with Active Directory at this point in time, right? So I know a lot of IT pros are looking at group policies, those kind of things. Windows Phone 7 doesn't allow you to do that. We're looking in a longer term to actually implement more of a group policy approach to Windows Phone and the management of Windows Phone.
Right. So you talk about group policy, or specifically around security. I know that my smart device always has a locking of the pin and locking the device, so little security measures. What would be like the top 2 or 3 things we would want to consider as an IT professional managing an infrastructure about how do we keep those devices secure?
Well, I think you touched on the most important one. The first layer of protection you have to protect the device is to implement a PIN so that the user, whenever he logs into the device, has to enter a PIN, a 4-digit PIN usually, to open up the device and get access. That's the first thing. On top of that, I think a few policies are important here. Is that you need to make sure that you refresh that policy on a regular basis in the Exchange server. So you require the Exchange server to go out and refresh the policy, and make sure you have a number of password policies implemented that tell you the device locks after 1 minute or 3 minutes or 5 minutes, so that when a user puts it on a bench or on a table or something like that, that the device automatically locks. And then the other one is making sure that the device actually wipes when the PIN code is entered multiple times, or in the wrong way, or when the wrong PIN is entered in multiple times, I would say. So that we usually indicate that somebody is trying to get access to the device without actually being authorized to access the device, right?
Right.
That from a policy perspective, I would say those are the big things to protect the device, and as a first layer of protection. An additional thing I would tell IT pros is make sure that end users know that when they lose the device, they or contact the IT department to have it wiped or know how to wipe it. And it's very easy to do that from an end user perspective. They can go through their email or the web-based console they have, the OWA as we call it, and they can go in there and wipe their own device when they have lost it or they think the device is stolen. And lots of devices get stolen or are lost actually in any given year, any types of devices. So it's good for your end users to know that. We know from my experience that a lot of end users don't know how to do that or that functionality is available to them. So make sure your users know.
So education, right? And educating the end users. Also, having the ability to go through Outlook Web Access, like you said, to be able to wipe the device. These are all great things to know. Specifically, if you're an IT professional or you're into, making the decision to be able to bring these devices into the infrastructure of how you can secure your IP, your company, knowledge and confidential information on these devices. So that's great. One thing I'm kind of curious in as well is there a way to, I know you said updating the policies. Is this done via ActiveSync in the infrastructure, or how would you provision the phone or maybe update the phone remotely? Is there a possible way to do that?
So there are two elements to what, or three elements actually to what you're talking about. I think just updating the policies, that is something you do through the Exchange console from a Exchange CAS server, client access server, where you set the policies. You can also set the refresh of the policies, and you can read the log files from the CAS server to understand which devices are connecting, how often they are connecting, and if their policy is being refreshed, those kind of things. There are a number of tools as well from Microsoft as from third parties to be able to do that and integrate it into your more general, I would say, endpoint the management that you're doing in your company as well from a laptop perspective or those kind of things, right? Then updating the device itself, that's kind of a hot topic today because we've just started with updates to the Windows Phone, the February update, and those updates actually come directly to the phone. It is required for a user to have access to a PC with a Zoom software on it. Okay. So if they would do it on a corporate PC, they would need the ability to install the Zoom software. It would be installed automatically if they have internet access and connect the phone. If not, IT departments can download the full version of the Zoom software from Microsoft Download Center and integrate it in their normal kind of update mechanism, I would call it, as such, right? And for a phone to be able to update once the Zoom software is installed, there needs to be a connection to the internet available that is not blocked, right? So that's important. The phone will kind of create a direct desktop connection. Through the desktop, it will go to the internet and download the update for the phone itself. Okay. Getting a new update in April with a new functionality on the phone, amongst other, there is a copy and paste functionality. For those IT pros which are still running Exchange 2003, we will have GAL lookup from the phone in that update, which is important. So you can actually search for email addresses. You don't have to know them by heart on an Exchange Server 2003. So those are kind of important elements in the update coming in April.
That's great. That's great. So when we talk about, for instance, looking at the devices in our infrastructure, do we have a way, can we use System Center Configuration Manager to do, say, reporting via WMI queries to those devices so we know what devices and the footprints of what devices we have and makes and models, perhaps? Can we pull some data from WMI into a reporting of some way?
No, there is no integration with System Center Configuration Manager at this point. It's a hotly requested capability. But Configuration Manager is not able to manage Windows Phone 7 at this point in time. Some of the listeners may know that System Center is working on releasing a next version of System Center Configuration Manager that will have some device management capabilities across multiple brands of devices, let's say, right, including Windows Phone 7. And so they can, with that new version, they can do that. The current version of Configuration Manager has some extensibility by partner modules that allow you to do Windows Phone 7 device management today. But so that requires an add-on from a third party, from a System Center partner, actually, to do that. And obviously, if you are not using System Center, you can still use Exchange and the Exchange log files and parse those for getting the right information on what's happening with mobile devices.
Right. So, for instance, we've got third-party partners like BDNA and some others. Do you have any idea about third-party tools you might want to mention?
I think at this point in time there is one third-party tool that actually integrates well, and that is the Odyssey third-party tool for device management.
Okay.
There are a number of third parties that are working on getting support for Windows Phone 7, and we will be able to talk more about that in the near future. For example, at TechNet this year in May, we will have multiple of these partners actually having additional tools available as such, right? So we are in market since October of last year. We reached last night, we reached 10,000 apps in our marketplace, and some of them are from these third-party management companies, and we'll get more as we move forward in the next 6 months. You'll see a lot more coming.
That's excellent. What I would like to see too, or maybe there's already some apps out there in the marketplace for IT professionals to maybe manage these phones remotely, or be able to do new types of technologies using the phone app marketplace. Any idea of what IT Pro applications might be out there today?
Well, at this point in time, it's limited, as I said, right? So we'll get more of them in the next months. We may also be looking at much more like some remote desktop type of applications, those kind of things that an IT department would like to use, so an IT Pro can actually use Windows Phone 7 to go and access maybe a server console or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And we're also looking at a few other tools for example, having a Windows Phone 7 application that goes out and reads the KB articles at Microsoft or at TechNet.Microsoft.com, I think it is. So people can actually download and follow the latest KB articles on TechNet, that kind of stuff. That's probably also good stuff for a number of the IT pros out there.
Excellent. So to kind of wrap things up, what would be your advice to people out there, either CIO, CTO, IT pro managers, system administrators, technical support folks? What would you give them, like your last kind of few words here about what would they need to do to kind of plan for Windows Phone 7?
Well, I would first of all look a little bit at what is your user base within your organization. What kind of functionality does that user base need? And you certainly don't have to buy smartphones for all your employees, right? Employees these days want the smartphones for their own personal use and are more than willing to buy those for their own personal use. So look at how you can accommodate those kind of users, because a smartphone delivers a lot of productivity from an end user perspective, and as an IT pro, you can help your organization be more profitable because your end users can do more while they are at home, on the road, at a soccer game, whatever, right? So that's where a smartphone plays a big role. And then the second thing I would say, there is a lot of stuff out there to prepare for Windows Phone 7. I would certainly look at my blogs and the technical articles I write at blog.technet.com on Windows Phone for IT pros. Certainly also look at the forums that we have out on there, and as well as on the MSDN side, as on the TechNet side, with lots of very useful information for people, very actively supported by our Microsoft support services. And then last but not least, I also look at TechNet or TechEd online, I should say, right? We have been doing lots of sessions around Windows Phone as well in North America as in Europe, and those sessions are available for you in a large number of IT Pro types of sessions. You can go and get some additional training and information around Windows Phone 7.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to seeing you as well at TechEd. I'll be there in Atlanta as well. With that, well, thank you, Alan Meeus. He's a senior technical product manager for infrastructure with Microsoft, has a passion and love around Windows Phone 7. Thanks for being on the IT Time Radio show today.
Well, it was great being with you.
Thank you very much for being here, and all of you listening in to IT Time Radio. I'm your host, Blain Barton, Senior IT Pro Evangelist here at Microsoft. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again on IT Time Radio.